It's high noon for some of the Western leagues. Let's see who has some bullets left in the six-shooter on this week's episode of the Bar Report podcast. Episode number 328 of the Indy Bar Report podcast, the only show that isn't owned by Diamond Baseball Holdings. It's Nick and it's Spartacus here. How you doing?
I'm dead inside. So
yes, you're a Roman gladiatorial slave.
In so many ways, yes.
So, seeing as, DBH bought your local team, and I assume that it makes you on the verge of wanting to jump off the pagoda, which, understandable. We just need to make sure, seeing as your most recent episode involved talking about DBH, do you have a healthy will to live, no notable health ailments, and if we see your obituary in the paper, should we suspect foul play?
For sure. I've looked into doing something about this before, about Diamond Baseball Holdings, and like the number of people in minor league baseball who are like, I'm good not talking about that. I was like, okay, interesting, fun. Not that they're killing people out here, but they'll blacklist you for sure.
All right. I just want to make sure that in case you were to, end your own life by stabbing yourself in the face 25 times, we should make sure that we assume it's foul play and not you're just trying to be extra again.
Taking the old whistleblower exit.
Oh, window exit. Got you. Top floor?
Top floor? Nah. The force of being thrown out by myself will certainly help it.
Okay, good. So fourth floor with a little nerve toxin tea?
Sure.
Ah,
delicious.
The Russian way.
The Russian way.
But we're not talking about Russia, at least not yet this week. We're talking the American Association and the Pioneer Leagues. We're looking western this week. So I guess we should just dive right on into that because this is technically a baseball podcast.
It's been said.
American Association here. They are, admittedly after this week, not helping the beating the parity odds. They are starting to separate a little bit here, although admittedly the West Division has gotten kind of interesting. I mean, that last playoff spot's still very much in play. Lincoln having a really good stretch lately, jumping both Fargo and Winnipeg, two teams that I had at the top of this division at the start of the year, and the wheels are just falling off on both of those situations, although they're only 2 games under 500. It feels worse there. The vibes are not good there. Even though the vibes have their own issue, but we'll get to that.
Potentially.
Yes, potentially. And the rest of the West Division, all is very much in play for the top seed. I mean, you have Sioux Falls, they're 2 games back. Sioux City is a half game back. Kansas City, that while not playing their best ball over the last 2 weeks, has kept afloat and has a 7-game stretch against Gary, so that's medicine for the soul.
That'll work.
Yep, unless you're Gary, of course, but
not great for Gary.
Yeah,
Gary was on a skid and then has Kansas City lined up next. Fun.
Counterpoint, though, the Railcats have the opportunity to do the funniest thing.
Facts. Yes, that is in my mind as well. So never underestimate them.
Exactly. Even if they are on pace to be worse than they were last year. But,
which is just unreal, dude. Unreal.
And they've
playing
better.
In a way where I'm like, okay, they were playing a little better, but I think it's one of those things where it's like, without depth, you can kind of glue it together for a bit, but things just get exposed,
We're all trying to find who did this. 2 years like this, man. 2 years. Back to back.
It's hard to go the wrong way from where they are, and they're going the wrong way. I'm just like, what is happening?
Which, last point on Gary, because I don't want to drag him, because last couple times we talked about him, we kind of dragged him here, and that's not really fair to him, even if they are playing like dog shit. If you were to fire Lamar, would Mark be a good guy to go in there? Because Mace could kind of be interesting. Assuming he would take it, of course.
Yeah, right.
Which I don't know if he would.
At this point, that's a tough one as well.
He has taken some garbage teams as a reason. A year in Empire State and a year in Hagerstown. Now, granted, different situations, both East Coast too, as opposed to more Midwest. And travel-wise, travel isn't that much better or worse. They're about the same as Frontier when you figure it, but even still,
it's better than most of the Empire State, I'll tell you that much.
True. So, obviously there's a lot of factors there, but would you consider that as a possibility if you're him?
I don't know his situation.
Yeah.
I mean, you know me and my feelings on jumping in and working with the team. Even I would negotiate with Gary more than I would with any other team.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're also in a position where you can negotiate with them a little bit more. But I just think, like, from a roster building perspective and a for the boys perspective, he could potentially do some good work there. Like,
there's something to that, least,
I mean, like, if you're going to suck this bad, you got to keep the morale up. Right?
Yeah,
like,
the vibe has to be good, and they're just not. Yeah,
and I mean, I know we did this a couple weeks ago. You remember how many games he won with Empire State? Was it like 17, 18?
It's something like that, yeah.
So I figure if you can win 17 or 18 of about 96 games with the travel team, he could definitely get to like 40 with Gary, right?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
That's already an improvement, right? He brings in some of his own guys too. Like, at this point, I think if you're Gary, you just would take a 40-win season just to show that you could still. And I mean, like, the division like you're in always seems to have one team that disappoints and one team that's mid as hell. So, like, if the mid as hell team hits a bad skid and you hit a good skid at the right point, that could maybe get you into the postseason. Now, one of the three real teams in this division will probably kick the crap out of you in like 2-3 games, but
But we're dancing.
Exactly. Like, there's right direction at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you got to be, I think Mace would have at least a good chance at improving. Now, we would say that about maybe his season that he had last year with Hagerstown compared to this year, and he managed to not. So perhaps we're overvaluing what Mace is bringing to the table because he's had, go back to York, I mean, a stretch of bad years now, but obviously extenuating circumstances and all that. So I don't think it's a guarantee, but I think it gives a good opportunity. But I mean, right now Lamar's the guy, so they are going with Lamar. And while I do not think Lamar's doing a good job by any means, I also highly doubt Lamar's the only issue there.
That's fair. I mean,
would come in there would inherit whatever intrinsic issues are within that organization that are allowing and causing this.
That's fair too. I mean, you don't have a season like last year and a season like this year in back-to-back years unless there's a deeper institutional problem. So
exactly.
All right, that's enough on them because it's always negative with them now. And it's very disappointing because, like, I don't want to be negative about them because I do, like, have this soft spot for them as much as it doesn't seem like that. But that's why I'm kind of harder on them is because
it's one of those organizations that we're hard on because, we both like them and want them to succeed so badly. And just like it's almost infuriating at times to watch these mistakes.
And there's some guys on that team too where I'm like, you're not a bad ball player. You're actually doing pretty well.
100%.
And it's just like, if you only had the support, because like right now you're in a piece where you shouldn't be a main piece. You should be the support piece. Yeah. And if you were in that role, you'd be doing way better. And you'd actually be in a position where in a year or two from now, you could be the main piece. Mm-hmm. And it would be, successful. But instead, that's just not the situation. So,
I've been noticing more on that when it comes to guys like being asked to take a step up in league talent level. As I've been looking through sort of now the first like third of the season to a half season of results, like it does seem to be guys who are allowed to fill just be a role player, have, they don't need to do too much. Those are the ones who seem to be making the adjustment the best. So when you don't have the talent structure or the operation structure around guys to allow for that, you start asking too much and guys are trying to do too much and it becomes a mess fast.
Exactly. Now the whole thing gets kind of thrown out of whack on it, and then it's hard to really pull out of the spiral too. Mm-hmm. Not to mention just the roster building element of saying, oh yeah, this guy that really hasn't done much on this level maybe was really good in the Pioneer or the Frontier, and now we're asking to make that adjustment, come on over and lead. And it didn't happen. It's like, well, you're not going to find that guy mid-season. It just isn't going to happen. Like, the only way it does occur is if they were on the team last year, they went to Mexico, did not work out after like 15 games down there, and now it's the end of May, middle of June, and they're out of Mexico and they're looking for a place to come back to, and they say, screw it, I'll go back to the place I had some success last year under a manager that I liked playing for in an organization that, all things considered, treated me pretty well. So you go back there and try to succeed. So,
and yeah, you can sometimes get lucky with it, but just as a rule of thumb, if you're trying to solve off-season problems during the season, you're in trouble. You can only get away with that a couple times.
Exactly. Yeah. Like this is taping together a building with duct tape. It's like, yeah, sure, it may hold up part of it for like a little while, but it's not secure. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't go in that building. Sure, exactly. It's technically a building.
But one of those duct tape guys that has kind of worked out in that first year adjustment is Henry George over in Sioux City. That's a dude he's doing pretty good. He's getting on base a lot, doesn't really strike out that much, only 23 Ks in 37 games. If I remember right, they've been testing him out at the leadoff spot a little bit. I know he led off last night, second half of the doubleheader. I don't know much prior to that, but he does seem to be a kind of guy that I would feel comfortable in that spot here. He has some wheels. He's stolen 14. He's 14 of 18 there, so he's got a pretty good success rate on that. Gets on base. Doesn't have much pop, but that's fine. I don't need a lot of pop from a leadoff guy. But 28 walks and how many hits? 44 hits in 37 games. I mean, that's getting on base, and that's really what I care about for my leadoff guy. And leading the team in doubles tells me that, hey, if he can find the gap and you start your leadoff guy on second base, second with none away to start a game is pretty damn good.
Yeah, I want to say he's been batting second, but not 100% on that one. But I think he's been batting second a lot. But to get guys at the top of the order who are actually producing, getting on base, and giving an opportunity to the guys behind them is, I mean, it's deceptively difficult to find.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially when you start looking at this particular lineup from the Explorers here, it's really like three guys that are kind of leading the charge here, and like a couple other guys like, say, Montgomery and Layer, who are running a little bit of pop. But outside of that, I mean, what is it? Day, Volchich, and George are really the three main contributors here. So it really is important to get those guys on base early on. So that way you have as many cracks as you can at trying to get one of them in. I mean, the offense is still a bit of an issue with them, but the pitching staff's held up here. Now, Willman had his contract purchased, I think, by the Reds this week. So that could be a factor in all this. But hey, if you can still get production out of your starting group and the bullpen holds up, then you don't have issues, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, right now it's doing enough to hold together. I mean, they are, if we're looking at, where they're at and things, Sioux Falls is a really good team. They're going to be very difficult to beat. Kansas City is going crazy, even though they keep getting guys signed and they still keep winning games. I think Sioux City is benefiting possibly from a bottom half of their division that's struggling a little bit. And it's allowing them to work out some of those things, like work through the lack of depth a little bit. Not that they're like, super short on depth, but just having only, a few guys who reliably can handle sort of top of the lineup type responsibility, like not top of the lineup, like heart of the lineup responsibility. That's something to work around, but so far they're making it happen. So they're not really being exposed on this yet.
Yeah. I mean, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm trying to think if I see this as a long-term thing. I mean, realistically, from production side, they really only have two guys that are above league average in the lineup, which is sort of absurd to think about. Considering
that's something that's going to have to get figured out here. And I mean, perhaps you can look around the whole indie ball world here and find a guy or two that could hit. I will say the pitching has been very impressive. So, and the
pitching has made that work for sure.
Yeah, that's the one thing I will say is I think the pitching can carry here, because you look at it, and Weatherby, Willman, Drury, Marmon have been a great 1, 2, 3, 4, and losing Willman there, it sucks. I mean, 50 innings, 65 Ks, and only 13 earned runs and 22 walks is phenomenal. I mean, you're going to be hard pressed for that. I mean, how many extra base hits to give up? I only see 4 here, but I don't see home runs allowed either. So that could vary a little bit, but even still, a 1, 2, 3, 4 of a guy with a 218, a 316, a 368, that will still play. And I mean, hell, I'm looking at Marmon here, and 17 walks and basically 54 innings and 73 Ks to go along with it. Like, yeah, occasionally he's going to get burned, but like he's burning more than he's losing here. So I think that's going to hold up and will keep them league average at worst as long as that holds in the bullpen. You got, was it Cepeda and Jesse as the two main workhorses there, and everybody else just kind of fills in, which is fine when your stars are giving you 6 innings, which is roughly what they've been doing. You know, you just need one other guy in that bullpen to give you a good night, and it'll be fine. So I think it's going to hold up here, but I do agree the below league average batting is going to catch them at some point, and I'd like to see them get a bat from somewhere. I just don't know where.
Yeah, when it gets down to crunch time against some of those top teams, it's going to put them in a spot where that pitching can't really give anything.
Yeah.
And that just is, even for a good pitching staff, a precarious position that could cost them here.
Yeah. I want to see right now what team is going to be that one that kind of catches up to them batting wise. And I kind of have the sense that it's both the two in their division, KC and Sioux Falls. I would see SF, and I want to say San Francisco, even though I know it's not that, but I'm just so used to seeing that abbreviation, thinking one thing. But yeah, the Canaries and Monarchs are going to kind of push them there, and that's where my concern is here. Off the top of my head, I don't have the record against them so far this year. I don't want to burn too much time looking it up, but gotcha. Either way, both of those teams have been very good so far, and you're going to wind up running into one of them in round one almost certainly, unless they find a way to win the division, which is certainly in play still. I mean, they're half game out, and, you know, Kansas City keeps losing guys left and right. Sioux Falls, while they're rising, haven't quite been able to grab the division yet. So they absolutely could win it, and then you just kind of get whoever limps in, you know, that will get you through the first round. And then after that, I mean, what? You got to win 6 more games in a year. And that just requires you having a really good week, you know, a good 2 weeks, which is very well possible, especially if you get the right matchup here. I mean, like, if, let's just say hypothetically, I don't think it's going to be Lincoln getting that last spot. I think eventually that's going to get found out. But let's just say Lincoln finds a way, they limp in, and you're the Explorers, you pick them, obviously. And you beat them up, you sweep them. Okay, good. That's something we could all see happening. And then the Canaries and the Monarchs beat the hell out of each other for 5 games, because I believe we went to a 5-game first round now. And I could be mistaken there. And if I am, I'm going to get an email telling me I'm mistaken, which is fine. I appreciate the correction. But they beat the hell out of each other. Series runs the distance. And then one of them's got to limp into Sioux City, or Sioux City, I guess, to just park the bus and wait to find out how far south they're going or how far north they're going. And they pull in, pitching already lined up, and they're able to take 1 on the road, 2 at home, call it a day, and move along. You know, that's something you can absolutely see. And at that point, then it just goes to 1 series. And, I mean, it's baseball, right? Like, anything can happen in 1 series. So now that's, of course, the picture perfect way of things going, and that seldom ever happens, but it's still a result you could see happening.
Right. Yeah, I could follow that. I'm just a more, I do just see Sioux Falls and Kansas City right now as a more complete team on both ends of them. So
I would give you that.
That they need to, and they don't need to fully match them. They just need to get it to a point where, and that is the interesting thing with this format, where you can get a few games up and be pretty confident, where they just need to be ready, you know, see where they're getting exposed, see what they can improve on, you know, reasonably. Like, you know, they don't need, it's not, you need to revamp, you know, a whole segment of the roster. It can just be getting 1 more high leverage arm or even middle leverage arm to sort of bridge a gap. It can be, you know, simply just finding 1 more bat just to sort of flesh out the rest of that lineup a little more. Like, you don't need to do as much as sometimes I think fans think, but just because again, if we're talking about just a playoff series, it is just, you know,
get
closing
lucky.
the gaps that can be exposed within a week of playing each other, essentially.
Yeah. Plus, once you just get that one more bat in, it takes a lot of pressure off the rest of that lineup, and you're able to move guys into better spots here. So you don't have guys playing out of order. And if you can go from, say, 4 or 5 guys playing out of their order in the lineup to just like 2 or 3 guys, all of a sudden now you have a pretty decently optimized lineup.
Yeah, it's true.
So it may not be perfect, it may not be what you want, but it's something that will work. And that's really all you need. If you have elite pitching and just league average hitting, you could probably get pretty far with that.
I agree.
Even with my theory of you don't want to go all in on pitching because it doesn't put up runs, it just stops runs, but that's a whole separate thing. I will say on the point of I like Sioux Falls. I think Falls is doing pretty well. I like their current trajectory. I will say Kansas City is concerning to me, and that's kind of where I want to go next here. While guys like Nagowski and Bissonnette and Williams, they're all doing very well. I like them there. They have been having a lot of guys getting purchased. I wonder if that starts to catch up to them. Pitching wise, I got to take a closer look at it, but the Lincoln series kind of did shake me a bit. And after watching, I was like, ooh, should I have ranked Kansas City as high as I did? And I got to be real with you. If they don't go perfect against Gary going into Monday for that ranking, I'm dropping them a bit because, I mean, how they were up big on Lincoln and then just eked out a 2-run win against them. And that could have been really disastrous. I mean, this is like a 10-game stretch they have where you're at home, you have 2 of the more bottom teams in this league. You should be putting up like a 700 winning percentage against these guys. Like, that's what's kind of expected if you're going to be the top dog in the league.
Yeah, and the Lincoln series is an interesting thing to bring up because they've played them 3 times now, and I think you can kind of track the trajectory and the struggle of filling spots and keeping the depth alive with those series because they opened the season hosting Lincoln, won 8-1, 9-3, 4-3. And then the next time they played them was about 2 weeks later. They won 16-12, lost 7-3, and then won 3-1. And then they went to this series with Lincoln where they lost 6-5 and 12-1 before getting that 7-5 win. So it's definitely you can because Lincoln is improving, but not
that much.
Kansas City's doing more to come back to Lincoln than Lincoln's doing to gain on Kansas City, I think. So that's sort of a good way to gauge what we're looking at here. Again, Kansas City does feel like a team that can usually bring guys in and can find the depth. They have a bit of that Long Island Ducks to them. Yeah. So I'm not overly panicking, but you're right. I'm also looking to see them at least take 3 this weekend from Gary.
Yeah, I mean, you're down for 7, so like, I kind of want
right. It's 7 in a row. I forgot with the 4 in Kansas City, 3 in Gary.
Yeah, so I kind of in that 7-game stretch, how many you need to see him win? Because for me, it's 6.
I think it's 6, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't expect you to win 7 straight, which would make it 8 straight. I mean, that's a little crazy, especially with travel days and lining things up and whatnot. But like, you're playing a 10-win team here, guys. Like,
yeah, you got to get it done.
Exactly. The flip side, I mean, like if you're Gary and you're able to steal like 3 of them and play pretty much 500 ball against them, that's a big momentum one. That's something that could change your season a little bit here. Now, change it meaningfully, maybe it's a little late for that before 2 games in. But, you know, give you some confidence for the second half. Yeah, absolutely could do that.
Yeah, I'm just doing a little bit of that math. Right, yeah, I gotta say they really should be winning 5 of those games. You could argue they should sweep this series. Like, oh, I'm sorry, they should win probably 6 of those games. Is my math.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like that's just the thing here. Is like I'm looking at the team overall too. What kind of spooks me a little bit here is like they're almost like the inverted version, Kansas City. This is of what we want Sioux City to be, right? Where Sioux City elite pitching and just league average hitting. Kansas City on the flip side is elite level hitting and like pretty much league average pitching, right? And they keep losing guys left and right. And so I'm kind of concerned by that. Like, Confa PH is great. He does a really good job everywhere he goes.
Mhm.
And he's the reason why this team has been a contender more years than not. That being said, there's limits to what one man can do, right? Like, you can only lose so many guys before it's like, okay, where am I going to find replacements?
Yeah.
And you're kind of seeing that with the starting pitching, right? Like Garcia and Godot are great. Like, they're doing their job. They're going fairly deep into games, about 5 innings or so each. So, like, they're, average starts, quality starts. Garcia, especially, he's got a lot of Ks per innings pitched. 44 innings, 74 Ks. That's pretty great, actually. Only 15 walks, not bad. He's giving you quality starts. Pregin, he's giving you a couple of starts here, but he's really not a starter. And then you start to get down here where, like, Hendrickson, fine, number 3, he'll do the job for you. And then your 4 and your 5 both have ERAs around 5, where it's like, I don't love that. Jackson Goddard got to be better. Martinez got to be a little bit better too. And, like, I'm looking elsewhere, the bullpen doesn't inspire me much, if we're being totally honest. Like, Goldberry does, and then, like, Sigmund and McMahon, I don't count him with less than 10 innings as a serious bullpen piece yet.
Sure.
At least at this point in the season. I mean, we're what, 42, 43 games in. Like, you got 10 innings pitched. It's like, okay, so you're working 1 inning every 4 days. Like, I kind of, I like to see like 15, 20. That tells me you're a meaningful piece in this bullpen. But there's really, like I said, only Goldberry there that I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's a good bullpen piece.
Yeah, I'm just looking through who stood out to me last couple times that I've given them a look, but I'm just sort of comparing because there's been so many guys who've disappeared off this roster. I'm kind of doing the quick comparison, make sure I'm not missing anybody.
Yep.
I got a lot of small sample guys because of all the movement too.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing who else stands out. Yeah, it's getting pretty light in that bullpen, ain't it?
Yeah, that's the thing here. And pitching depth's one of those things you're not going to find a lot of. Like, I mean, they could just go to like the new age MLB way of like, all right, so you're going to pitch one day, then we're going to let you go, and we're going to bring somebody else in the pitch and just like revolving door this thing. You could do that. I don't love it, but it's an option.
Yeah. I mean, of like the current go-tos, I would say maybe one is notably above league average. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's where I get kind of concerned at, right? Like, again, I don't think you build around pitching. I have said that multiple times here, but at the same point in time, you need like 2 or 3 guys in that bullpen that on any given day, you can just say, all right, I need you to give me 2 innings of quality work and hand the ball. And I don't know if they have that right now. And more importantly than that, take those 2 arms out of it because you may have to use them back-to-back days. And then it's kind of like, all right, well, we can't really roll you out again. Do you have faith in the rest of that bullpen to do the job? And the answer I come back to is not really.
No, and there's an underrated red flag. That's a red flag for any team, but I think specifically can bite an indie ball team because of what happens when you end up having to use more pitchers than you should. And that's a pet peeve of mine is middle relievers who walk guys. Like middle relievers who get in there and don't find the zone. And then all of a sudden, even if it's not a close game, now you got to start getting somebody hot. Like, and it adds
it strains your team ways it shouldn't.
Yeah, and a difficult season to operate through. Like American Association, 6 games a week, sometimes 7. Like you can play 13-game stretches without a day off. Like you need to not have that happening. And they do have some guys who just will have, below average control and be putting guys on base, which, you can miss and you can maybe not have overwhelming stuff. But if you're not getting multiple guys on base, or they're at least, you make them earn it and it happens less often, at least then it sort of relieves the tension. You don't have to get a guy up and ready to go because, hey, if one more guy gets on, all of a sudden this could be a tie ball game. Like it just avoids that whole headache.
Yeah, and depending on the situation too, I'd almost rather you throw a riskier pitch that might get taken for a run than walk the guy. In the sense of if you give if you give a solo shot, like, yeah, it sucks, but if we're up by 4, then it's not a big deal. We're still up by 3, and a lot still has to go wrong there. But if you walk the guy, you've used more pitches now. And in the correct circumstance, it's like, okay, by the time that we get the guy up and hot that we want to face the batter in the lineup that would correspond to him, that spot's already going to be gone through. So if the guy, let's just say we got two righties and you want your guy to take the lefty that's up in the 3 spot, you walk a dude and then walk another guy. Now it's like, well, shit. I got to make sure that other one's hot. That's not going to happen in the course of 1 or 2 batters, especially with the pitch clock. So, like, what am I going to do? Go out there for a mound visit, try to stall for time, and then tell him to pitch around this dude? No, I'm not going to do that because he already can't find the zone. And if he walks him or gives him a hit, either a run scoring, the bases are going to be loaded. To bring in then another guy to hopefully get this one out, and depending on how many outs there already is, it's like now we're really playing with fire. Because even if you get, like, say, a lazy fly, okay, great, a run's going to score still. I'd rather you have just given up that run out the bat, have it be cleared, use less pitches, and then at least I can make the call to get guys up. Like, there's circumstances there where, like, okay, I'd rather you give the hit, or at least throw a pitch where you're risking it.
Yeah, and you know, you end up with the weird stuff too, where we see less matchup for matchup type stuff, but you see it more as the season goes on and the familiarity comes up and the sort of leverage in games and the importance of innings goes up as you get closer to a playoff run. And what just is an absolute killer is when you have a guy with the 3 batter minimum who, you know, maybe has 1 or 2 guys he matches up well with, but then that second or third guy is a bad matchup, but you're trusting that they'll get it done and get out of that inning before you have to deal with that. And then they don't. And you're like, well, great. Now you're stuck with the bad matchup too, because it is hard to find guys who can handle, you know, different guys from different sides of the plate looking good. Like, it's hard to find that. And a good middle reliever, like, if you can, you're going to be a high leverage guy. But those middle reliever guys do sometimes depend more on matchups. And when that happens and you have guys who are walking guys or having troubles missing barrels and balls are getting through, it's like, man, like, you're really putting us in a spot here. And if that happens, I'm not saying every day, if that happens twice a week, it builds up really fast.
Yeah, and not to mention, too, in that circumstance with a 3 batter minimum, if 1 or 2 of those guys reach, it takes away your luxury of being able to say, all right, it's a bad matchup, but you like the guy behind him better, put him on.
Yeah.
If there's 1 or 2 guys already on, and there's only either 1 or no outs, it's like, well, you can't put him on now. Like, that's the worst case scenario. If there's 2 on, none away, in a matchup you don't like, it's like, there's no good outcome there. It's like either you put him on and it's loaded with none away, in which case then it's like, if he just gets bad on this, a run scoring essentially. And if it's pitched to him, it's like, oh, this could be 3 runs right here. Or at the very least 1 with now 2 in scoring and none away.
Yeah, especially because, like, outside of Hackinson, they really don't have a lot of strikeout guys right now in that bullpen that you can, like, regularly go to. Or at least that we've seen over a longer period of time are in fact strikeout guys. So that's where it starts to get a little complicated.
Definitely. Anyone over on the East Division you want to talk to before we go to Pioneer League?
Scroll. Let's see.
Because Chicago's been hot lately. They lost their last 2, but whatever on that. They had been good before that. I think they were 9 of their last 10 prior to that. And their division lead. Lake Country's been above average, but I really still, to this point, they don't feel like a division leader. Cleburne kind of in the same boat. They've struggled a little bit as of recent here. It's a tight race at the top there, no doubt, but even still, it has like the opposite feel of the West, where it's like 3 teams that are all really pushing because they're all really good versus 3 teams that I don't think they're bad, but I hesitate to call them good, you know?
Yeah. So Lake Country, I have, you know, they've been on a downward trend. I think they've lost 5 out of the last 10 series, but they're still interesting to me. They're still fighting the right to hang out at the top of the division. The offense is not strong, but the rotation. So the rotation just lost Jacob Nix and Chris Jefferson, who are both pitching really well, to the IL. I don't know what that stint is going to look like. It's tough because we don't know if that's a 10-day or if that's a season type thing when it comes to guys hitting the IL in these leagues.
Yep.
If that is something where they feel like they're going to get them back, that is interesting because that rotation, once you have Nix, Jefferson, Kyle
Riley,
Lobstein,
or
not Kyle Lobstein, Luke Hansel, and Kelvin Pilot. Those are the four that really have looked good. They putting in guys like JT Mulder out of the bullpen, who's been good in the bullpen. I worry about him in the rotation, and Kyle Lobstein, which has been a disappointing result so far.
Yeah,
that worries me with them. The bullpen, they got some guys there. Eric Torres is crazy for that team. Like, what are the numbers right now? 18 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, and 28 strikeouts. Meanwhile, he's walked 15 dudes in those 18 innings. So, like, Wild Thing energy. Love that for him. Might not be sustainable, but it's fascinating. Bryce Bonin, Jake Candleberry, like there's a bunch of guys in that bullpen that are fascinating. So like there is something there, but the lineup is thin, so they're gonna have to figure that one out for sure. Cleburne, I don't know what to figure out right now. It's like the pitching is not great. The batting is very good, and that's kind of what we expect from them. Like,
yeah,
I mean, the lineup
Chris Switzer is nice too.
Everyone in that lineup is above average right now, which is that'll work, you know.
Yeah, it's just that's the thing. Like each of these teams has a significant flaw. We'll talk Chicago in just a second here, but yeah, I do like how Chris Switzer comes in immediately, real hot 3 games. Love that for him. Which again, Gary, what I say so far, 2 of the 3 guys I mentioned doing real good in this league. Just saying. I know it's not as easy as just getting them, but like. Just saying. If you had a guy that's directly responsible for player procurement, maybe, just maybe, you know.
Thoughts.
Like that's just their job. Player procurement. That's just it. That's all they do. Could be very helpful. I don't know though. I've only been doing this for like 7 years. What do I know? But yeah, like I will say the Cleveland offense is very impressive there. And pitching wise, I have not looked at the pitching in a minute. So like I can't comment until I do that. But I mean, the starting pitching does spook me a little bit. Kraft and I guess it's Meckles. That's how we're going to go pronouncing that. Like those two look pretty decent, but then it's like, okay, it does kind of fall off. Kristen Scott in the bullpen. I think it's Kristen Scott, right? Yeah, it's Kristen Scott. It's a damn good thing. I've been doing this for a while. And I could just kind of go like, yeah, I think that's who that is. And be right half the time. So like, that's nice. You know, Scott, Broadway, those are nice pieces. But yeah, the pitching depth I'm kind of scared of. Also, losing Zeke Wood to St. Louis, not going to help the cause in that bullpen either.
No.
I mean, good for Wood, but
great. Yeah, Wood. That's the goal.
I want Wood, but yeah.
Classic.
Exactly. So like, concerning there, I am sad that we're not going to get another Lake Country Sioux City series though. The pitching in that series, be magnificent.
But, yeah, I will just stop by Kane County real quick because I think that's a team that's close and could make a run, but they just need some things. They need some depth. Like they basically have 2 starters, a reliever, and 2 batters that are like comfortably above league average production wise, and that's not how that works. Can't do that. Connor Ash is like terrific, though. I'm just going to continue to bump him because he's awesome.
Okay. He's great, but I don't respect a team that struggles against Gary, and I do mean struggles.
No, that's the thing. It's like they're just getting exposed for just not having enough of a roster assembled, and the rotation's not bad. I mean, Timpanelli, Mazzo, Muir, and Fox, like fairly good, all round league average, maybe better. But like Jake Gazzo is like the only dude that really catches your eye out of the bullpen. Todd Lott's really good. Marcus Chu, he's been really good since he got traded from Fargo, but like they need more than that. Trenton Craig and Armin Upshaw probably need to produce a little more. Like there's glimpses of it, but then they lose to Gary and you're like, whoa, okay. Don't know what to do with Milwaukee either, by the way. I think Milwaukee might just be a bad team.
Yeah, there's a couple in there that
I think did you see my tweet about Milwaukee the other day with for anyone who didn't see it, it's in games when they're tied after 5 innings, they're 1-6. In games when they're tied after 6 innings, they're 0-7. After 7 innings, when they're tied, they're 0-5. When after 8 innings, they're 0-2. That should be about 500 guys. Like that is basically playing a 4-inning long baseball game starting in the middle of the game or less. And they just are, you know, some of those games overlap because they were tied in the 5th and tied in the 6th or whatever. But like that's a 1 in 20. That's you can't have that. That's not how that works.
You can just stop watching after the fourth if they're losing, though. That saves you so much time.
Dude, if they're tied, you can stop watching after the fourth. Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you just don't have enough depth getting back to the pitching staff to just routinely hold down a tight game at the end. So tough one out there.
Yeah, quick note for Chicago. It feels more like they're just hot than they are good, but they are coming around. So I don't want to just say that and leave that.
Right.
I like some of their bullpen. DiLabito or DiLabio.
Yeah.
He's been really good. I mean, like, really good. 30K, 6 walks, 23 and 2/3. Like, that's pretty damn good out of the bullpen. I mean, clearly the closer in that situation, but he locks it down. That's what you really need to see. I just would like to see them get another starting pitcher to replace Curlis, because right now you lost your ace of your staff. You need to figure that out. Before, when it was Curlis, Lindgren, you can make do with that. Lindgren's not the ace of this staff. Cannot be. Need a pitcher that I start to really seriously consider you, and maybe they have that. Maybe Nidro is that guy. I hope he is. Only 1 walk and 1 earned run and 2 starts is great. Strikeout and innings great. Let's see if that holds up, though. It's too small to really say. Another 2-3 starts, and then I could kind of comment on that. But there's that, and then the top part of that lineup, and guys like Bell and Teeter are really pulling weight here. It feels like it's a top-heavy team, and the top half is producing right now, so they're going to do well. Which I think works fine for this division. I'm just concerned long-term view on that. But for now, they're doing really good. They shot up in the ranking from unranked, I think, 6th this week. So good on them. And hopefully they keep it up here. I'm going to look at the schedule real quick to see if they can keep it up. But meanwhile,
the reason that we're so worried about these teams that lack depth, because you're like, I mean, a few star players can carry you, sure. But the problem is, especially when it comes to a lineup, when you only have about 2 or 3 weapons in a lineup, that can really deliver for you. But as the season goes on, you start seeing those divisional rivals more and more often. The strategies become pretty clear. You can only arrange that so many ways. It's not like you're bringing, like, Cleveland's a headache because they can arrange their batting 7 or 8 different ways. That can be a problem. Like, based on who's on the mound, they can, you want to pitch around him, still got guys who are going to get you, type of thing. If a team, for example, has 3 guys who are really a weapon in the lineup, I mean, you can pitch around one, limit the damage on, like, you can basically pitch to one and then read the room from there. If it goes well, maybe you pitch around the second guy, or you can just be really careful. Don't give them much to hit. And if you walk them, and then kind of work from there. Like, it just gives you a lot more ways to navigate around that. Like, hey, if you split them up, if you manage to get out number 3 on one of those guys and they're hitting kind of back to back, like that, you can really navigate that however you want. So you see the more you sort of find your preferred method for how you're going to handle that, and you can work through it from there. So that's where, in leagues where there's, they don't see each other as much as other leagues do, but you're still got that familiarity, and familiarity is very dangerous when it's a team with limited options.
Yeah. So next 3 series for Chicago, 2 are on the road. Last one's at home. They have Kane County, Lake Country, and then they're at home 4th of July weekend against Kane County again, before staying at home against Milwaukee and then traveling to Lincoln and Milwaukee, respectively. So that's kind of their, I guess, month outlook here. So they do have a favorable schedule upcoming. I mean, Lake Country is really the only hiccup in there, and that's just a 3-game stretch. So, I mean, and you get the off day to travel there, so you can kind of set it up. Although I imagine if you sell that series, it's not the worst in the world, because you'd rather have your pitching and shit lined up for 4th of July weekend at home at a full ballpark. If you're going to suck on the road, as they say in the business. Sure. So, you could kind of recover. Although I will say they have a Monday game too. So they do play straight from July 1 until July 20 or July 13. So that is a long stretch there. That one Lincoln series could give them a little hell, but hey, we'll see. That's a problem for like 2 weeks from now. So
and if you're them, you're hoping that Lincoln cools off by then.
That said, American is done for the week. We will go to the Pioneer League. All right. So Pioneer League, we only have one team still in single-digit losses. Missoula has returned to their usual Missoula form. Oakland looks pretty solid too. Boise on a bit of a hot streak. And pretty much the people you expect to be at the top are at the top. And the two teams that suck are really sucking. And a Great Falls conversation may have to take place.
Yeah, I mean, they are. It was. I sort of put out there in the beginning that because of NoCo being such a garbage fire, it kind of took away the heat from Great Falls. And then as Great Falls had that big losing streak and the record was for an extended period worse than NoCo, I think the attention turned. I unfortunately think we're now seeing the wear of what's been going on start to hurt NoCo. I don't think Great Falls is really going to improve at all. This is a kind of a garbage fire, but new owners over there, so we'll have to unpack that at some point. I don't know if it's just a weird transition or if it's just not know what they're doing, but it's interesting. But NoCo, I mean, lost 7 in a row, lost 9 out of 10. I think it's actually worse than that when you zoom out a little bit. Yeah, it's getting interesting. I mean, playing on the road, I mean, they are just the road warriors at this point. They have not had a home game yet. So, I mean, sure they did in like a public park, but whatever. Not great. I guess keeping it. Yeah, I mean, I guess keeping it on the field for now. This is the Missoula that we thought we would see. It's not that they're doing anything exceptional. They are just beating bad teams. I mean, the rest of Montana is not good, and they are playing them frequently. So this cashing wins on Billings, Glacier, and Great Falls pretty consistently. Oakland and Yuba are just the teams that we expect, man. They battle. Their pitching is good. The hitting is fine. The number's always bad because they play not on a mountain, but it'll work. Yeah. The pitching, for the most part, holds up away from their home field, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think Idaho Falls is potentially a very quality to very good team. I think Rocky Mountain falling off is about what we can expect from them. I wouldn't be surprised to see them finish this year up at 500 or below. They're just not a very good ball club. I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, there's a divide here for sure. It's Billings, Grand Junction, Glacier, NoCo, and Great Falls. Yeah, and they're then a 5-game gap, and then everyone above them who is competitive, maybe not in the first half, but they look like they could compete in the second half. Ogden has proven they can at least beat the teams that are worse than them, and that's kind of what you need to do to stay in the race. They just got to find more wins against the other teams that are in the top. Boise, they're weird. They're hot and cold with me. They do a weird thing. And maybe this is just, again, I've said this before. Sometimes I'll watch a number of games and it's just baseball being weird. I'll randomly hit the games. I'll have the same theme. But if I took a second look, maybe it's not exactly what's happening. But I feel like every time I see Boise, they have a tendency of losing games or like losing a stretch of games where I'm like, they're not playing bad ball. And then they play underwhelming ball and they get a bunch of wins. I don't know what's going on with that necessarily. They had a good win streak in there for a minute, but now they're sitting 4 games back, and I'm not overly confident in them. But again, let's see where things go. I think Rocky Mountain. I think there's definitely a top group and a bottom group, and there's probably some subdivisions bringing up in there right now. But any thoughts or questions? I've been a little more in the weeds on Pioneer League stuff, I think, than you have. Do you have anything that you want me to go into? Or
as always with Pioneer League, it's really hard for me to talk about them. A, start time, which can't be helped. And B, I'm not paying for Flow. I'll be honest with you. Flow leagues, you're going to get short bag from me. I'm not paying $30 a month for what they're offering. Give me a baseball only pack, just like 10 a month, and we can talk. But until then, not happening. It's hard for me really to say here. I guess my real question is, with Oakland, how real is that above 13-game record? And then the other one I'm kind of curious about here are Billings and Ogden, because Billings I always see kind of hanging around a bit and then it just kind of falls apart. And with Ogden here, like they're kind of in that mushy middle of like they're not in the 20-win club like most of these like playoff contenders are, but they're also not that far out of it. They've been, more or less mid for the whole year, but they've had a really hot run lately. Is that just competition? Is that just they're finding a stride? Like, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, I wish I could, if I thought about before, I would have sort of brought records of, as I said, that top group, that top half of the league, essentially. and what those teams are doing against each other. I don't have that right in front of me, unfortunately. I don't have time to grab it. Maybe I'll tweet something out later about it. But when it comes to Oakland and are they legit type of question, they had a weird start, but recently they just lost 2 of 3 to Missoula, but they lost, game 3 of that series, the rubber match, in a knockout round. And
that doesn't,
right. They swept Ogden, who were just talking about being sort of a fringe good team. Then they beat up Glacier, who I think is probably the best of the mid teams. They beat them 5 out of 6. And then Boise, who we're saying is in that crew of above average teams, they lost to one of them 14-13 classic football scores, and then dropped a couple more football scores on them, winning 17-7, 15-2. So I think Oakland's for real. I think they're getting a lot of big statement wins. They're seeming comfortable in a lot of games. I think they know that they're better than a lot of this league right now, and they are sort of acting accordingly, and they're handling business where they need to. Missoula, just visiting that for a second, they're only a game and a half above the playoff cut line, essentially, and that kind of that they should be fine. The only thing that ever weirds me out with Missoula is sometimes they just have a game where they just gets I think they drop one Great Falls at one point where I was like, wait, what are we doing? They'll drop a random one where I'm like, you can't do that, because a lot of teams are winning at a good clip this year because of the number of bad teams. You really got to cash every one of those. And I think they'll be fine, but something to watch just in case this does stay tight. Who else are we looking at here? There were a couple teams you mentioned.
Ogden and Billings are the only other two I really wanted to talk about for the week.
Yeah. So Ogden, I'll go that way first. Ogden's interesting. I mean, it is one of those things. They beat the bad teams. They struggled against good teams, right? So if we sort of reverse from what they've been doing right now, they have basically split, if I remember right, Idaho Falls. They went 4 out of 6 with Idaho Falls, which is, I'd say, a pretty good result for them. Idaho Falls is a team I like. I think they do have weapons there. They've beaten the hell out of Northern Colorado for 3 in a row. Then before that, they got swept by Oakland, and then they took 2 out of 3, or they swept Great Falls, and then they, I think, split with Boise. So that's exactly what we're seeing. They're kind of splitting series with teams equal to them. They're getting blown out by teams who are better than them, and they're blowing out teams who are worse. It's very much a carved out niche for them. What does that mean? I think that means for that so far, they're not far out right now from the race. And remember, this is one of those leagues that could have a wild card if we see a repeat winner or a repeat top 2 team between the first and second half. So they're staying in it. I think they need to add, certainly, because while they are able to hold their own by beating those teams that are worse than them and staying kind of even with the teams that are around them, they are just not going to be able to ever catch that top 2, which is a really high standard if we think about it in a 12-team league. So they're going to need to find a way to start getting some of those wins. And unfortunately, some of these losses are not close. They really looked bad against Oakland. That was kind of shaking to see when it comes to the confidence there. When it comes to what Billings got going on, Billings is a struggle. I don't know what's going on necessarily there. It's just they'll do weird things. They'll skim a win here and there, 2 off of Missoula, and then they'll look lost for a few games. They will, Rocky Mountain's been cold. They split with Rocky Mountain. It's if you're where Billings is, right, several games below 500, fairly out of the race, sitting almost 10 games back, Rocky Mountain comes to town struggling, you have to cook them. And they just dropped opportunities on that one. Lost a weird game to NoCo, 2 weird games to NoCo, actually. They're just one where I don't think there's enough there to consistently carve out some sort of streak. Their pitching and their hitting is average. And when it comes down to that, I mean, if Ogden we're saying isn't good enough, they're pretty much above average on both. Then being average is just going to get you're going to lose to most of the teams at Ogden's level. And that's what we're seeing. They're just getting exposed every time that happens. So I think Billings is a far way off. I don't really see a path for them to resurrect this year.
Okay. So they're really,
I know it's early to say that. There is very, there's some teams that give up a lot of runs. You're oh, it's because they just have blowout games occasionally and weird meltdowns. Billings just gives up runs, and they'll score runs, but not even at the clip that they're giving them up. And I don't really see a path to improvement on that necessarily. And their track record doesn't suggest that they're the type of team that's going to build throughout the year and improve. Not certainly the way some of the other teams in the league will.
So they're certainly in the just the have-not category as opposed to the bad luck category.
Yes, okay. I think so. Yeah, I mean, you can't be in the bad luck category and you're dropping 2 games to NOCO, in my mind.
That's a very fair point. So I'm pretty good on the Pioneer League for now. Normally I would try to do a little bit more because I do get a short bag, but I'm against the clock. So I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to discuss for the week.
Couple quick things talking about NOCO. So I'm really struggling on this one. I was hoping to have more details here before we move along, but I'm having a hard time confirming. Basically, everyone I talk to is giving me a slightly different story about what's going on here. What I'm hearing is there is a rumor, and I'll give you the quick view of what I'm hearing about it. The rumor itself is that the NOCO is going to the rumor is they will post up and play out of Colorado Springs, potentially bringing back the Sky Sox branding. I've heard that and something similar from 2 sources who seem they're connected, but other connected sources around it have either said, well, they might do that. They're thinking about that. And by the way, this is like as soon as this weekend, potentially. So we're up against it, like on whether or not this is actually happening in the time frame that's being discussed. And then there's some that are saying, well, paperwork needs to be signed. And that's Katofsky who needs to sign that. And who knows how that's going to go. There's other people saying, no, that's not going to happen. They're going to continue to travel or whatever, or they have another owner trying to line up. So that is the rumor. And I would say about half the people I've talked to says that seems to be the direction. A quarter of the people say maybe, but I'm not so sure. And another quarter of the people say, I don't think that's happening. On the other side, keeping in mind Colorado Springs, I've also heard some things about Rocky Mountain struggling, and that directly you would think go against what we're hearing with NOCO coming to Colorado Springs, because what I'm hearing on the Rocky Mountain side is that they may not be. Now, this is, again, I'm hearing different things from people. It's almost the same breakdown of about a third of the people I've talked to have been like, yeah, that's going on. Another third are like, nah, that's like bits and pieces. That's weird, like one-off things that are being generalized. And it's not actually the case. And there's another third that are like, I have no idea. I don't think that's happening. And it's getting hard to sort of pin down what exactly it is. And sort of, I think certain things just aren't being talked about. But the rumor is that Rocky Mountain is dealing with some housing issues to the point where maybe guys are on their own for housing and hotels and possibly even transportation costs, as a couple people have mentioned. That's a big deal if that's true. That also would pretty much directly conflict with what I'm hearing about Colorado Springs and moving basically into Rocky Mountain, because that won't help the housing for sure, unless of course they're getting maybe some money back for that, in which case that might loosen that up. So there's a lot of different options here, and I'm unfortunately getting no consensus here, but I'm just putting it out there to people who might know more and want to reach out or just be curious. Be ready for something to potentially happen here. Those are the possibilities that might be more expected. There's other things that could be less expected. My main takeaway right now is the Pioneer League does not seem healthy. I think the estimate I'm running with, and that is a consensus, is about 2/3 of these teams are in a bad financial state. I would not be surprised if we do not have a Pioneer League in the next couple of years, unfortunately, at least not in the present form. That is the level of shenanigans and struggle that I'm starting to get a read on. I don't know if that means a lot of teams leave and some teams come in and that keeps the league going, but this is not going well. The minor league
sustainable long
indie
term
ball. It is not sustainable. And it is, once again, the quick reminder of, we do not see an overwhelming number of teams that go from minor league baseball, keep the same ownership, and end up in indie ball with success. Lexington couldn't do it. Charleston is kind of spinning it in a way that works, but that's debatable. Staten Island, I think they have different ownership though.
Some different ownership. I think there's one or two that remain the same, but I think by and large different.
So basically, without a lot of turnover, it is a totally different industry. It's totally different expenses. It is expensive to make work. And that is, again, when you hear a minor league team is getting cut loose, but they can go to indie ball, it's fine. keep in mind that basically means that ownership would have to enter in totally different industry. It's not the same business. So keep it in mind.
Yeah, only Kane and Tri-City, I think, are the only two that made it work, and Kane recently sold. So really,
exactly right.
So,
Yes,
which is a whole different situation, and the metro market's different. It's its own thing here, and they have their own internals. So, yeah. So there's that. But yeah, hell of a bomb to end the week on. Let that.
Yeah, I wish I could confirm that. Sorry, I couldn't, man.
It's good. It's good. Well, we got something to cook with for the first bonus episode back, which should be running up soon, seeing as I only have about 10 days left in this cast. So,
let's go.
I know. In a week from now, I'm going to be like, hey, Tuesday, I get this cut off. So it's going to be great. So, yeah, we'll leave it there for the week. I think we got a pretty tight, pretty concise, and pretty good show for the week. So look forward to putting that out for y'all. So we'll go to the plugs and we'll get out of here. Yeah.
Indie Ball Nation, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, podcast platforms. Got a few things coming out. Got finally doing American Association report cards. Took long enough that I'm doing it in trimesters for them. Classic. Other than that, a couple other videos I'm working on that hopefully will get out this week, but it depends on how distracted I get with Dime Baseball Holdings shenanigans.
All right. Sounds good. Indie Ball Pod on Twitter, Indie Ball Report everywhere else. More content going to come up in about 10 days or 2 weeks from now when my hand's out of this cast and I can actually edit. While I can kind of use a mouse with the right hand, it's not great. And also holding is kind of awkward because, there's a cast halfway up on my hand. So holding the mouse is awkward as hell. So editing a video is really not on my to-do list. And as you could probably tell from the title card graphics, the graphic design's a bit of a struggle at the moment too. So once this gets fixed, then we'll be back in motion here. But who knows? Maybe I'll have an article or something out for you because I can type and do that fairly well. So we shall see. But until next time, don't forget to play ball.